The airport was buzzing with people rushing to catch flights, reunite with loved ones, or start new adventures. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. My name is Sarah, and I had just moved from a small town to the big city of New York. I was leaving behind everything I knew for a new job and a fresh start. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement as I made my way through the crowd. After collecting my bags, I found a cab and gave the driver the address of my new apartment. As we drove through the busy streets, I couldn't help but marvel at the towering buildings, the bright lights, and the endless stream of people. It was a world away from the quiet, familiar streets of my hometown. When we finally pulled up to my new place, I saw a young woman standing outside the building, waving at me with a big smile. That must be Emily, my new roommate. She looked friendly, with her bright eyes and confident stance. Hi, you must be Sarah. She called out as I stepped out of the cab. Yes, that's me, I replied, smiling back. You must be Emily. It's so nice to finally meet you. Likewise. Let me help you with your bags, she said, grabbing one of my suitcases. As we walked up to the apartment, Emily chatted away, making me feel more at ease. I remember my first day here. It was a bit overwhelming, but you'll get used to it. The city has its charm once you settle in. The apartment was cozy and welcoming, with warm colors and comfortable furniture. Emily showed me to my room, a small but bright space with a window that looked out over the bustling street below. I hope you like it, Emily said. We can rearrange things if you want. It's perfect, thank you, I said, feeling a sense of relief. Great. I ordered some pizza for us. It should be here any minute, Emily said, her smile never fading. As we waited for the pizza, Emily and I sat in the living room, getting to know each other. She told me about her job as a graphic designer and her love for the city. So, what brings you to New York? Emily asked. I got a job at a publishing house. It's my dream job, but I'm a little nervous about starting, I admitted. Emily nodded. I get that. New beginnings can be scary, but they're also exciting. You'll do great, I'm sure of it. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Emily jumped up. That must be the pizza. Perfect timing. We spent the rest of the evening eating pizza and talking about our hopes and dreams. Emily's easygoing nature made me feel like I had known her for years. By the time I went to bed, I felt a little less like a stranger in a big city and more like someone ready to take on a new adventure. As I lay in bed, I thought about the day ahead and the new life waiting for me. There would be challenges, no doubt, but with Emily's friendship and the excitement of my new job, I felt ready to face whatever came my way. The city was vast and full of possibilities, and I couldn't wait to explore it all. The sun streamed through my window, waking me up to my first full day in New York. I stretched and took a deep breath, feeling both excited and nervous. Today was the day I would really start my new life here. I walked into the kitchen to find Emily already up, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled. Good morning, Sarah. How did you sleep? Morning, Emily. I slept pretty well, thanks. The city noises took a bit of getting used to, though. Emily laughed. Yeah, it can be pretty loud, but you'll get used to it. Coffee? Yes, please, I said, grateful for her kindness. As she poured me a cup, I looked around the kitchen. It was cozy, with colorful magnets on the fridge and a small table by the window. It felt like a place where good memories were made. So, do you have any plans for today? Emily asked as she handed me the coffee. I thought I'd explore the neighborhood and maybe pick up some groceries, I said. That sounds great. I can show you around if you'd like. There are some really nice spots nearby. That would be awesome, thanks, I said, feeling relieved. The thought of wandering around an unfamiliar city by myself was a bit daunting. After breakfast, Emily and I headed out. The neighborhood was bustling with people, and I tried to take it all in. Emily pointed out her favorite coffee shop, a park where she liked to relax, and a small bookstore that she loved. New York can feel overwhelming at first, but it's full of little gems like these, Emily said as we walked. I can see that. It's also different from what I'm used to, but in a good way, I replied. As we walked back to the apartment, Emily asked about my family and friends back home. I told her about my parents, who were supportive but a bit worried about me moving so far away, and my best friend, Lily, who promised to visit soon. You'll make new friends here too, Emily said, and I'm here if you ever need anything. Thanks, Emily. That means a lot, I said, feeling grateful for her support. Back at the apartment, we settled in the living room. Emily pulled out a photo album and started showing me pictures of her family and friends. This is my sister, Rachel, she said, pointing to a picture of a girl with the same bright smile as Emily. She's in college now, but we're really close. She looks lovely. Do you see her often? I asked. Not as much as I'd like, but we talk all the time, Emily said. And these are my friends from work. We hang out a lot, so you'll probably meet them soon. I'd love that, I said, genuinely excited of the prospect. As the day went on, I started to feel more at home. Emily's openness and warmth made it easy to feel like I belonged. By the time the evening rolled around, we were sitting on the couch, watching a movie and eating popcorn. I'm really glad you're here, Sarah, Emily said during a quiet moment. Me too, I replied, feeling a sense of contentment. I think this is the start of something really good. As I went to bed that night, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. I had taken a big step by moving to New York, and while there were still many challenges ahead, I knew I wasn't alone. With Emily as my roommate and friend, I felt ready to face whatever the city had in store for me. Monday morning arrived faster than I expected, and with it came a swirl of nerves. Today was my first day at my new job, and I was eager to make a good impression. I put on my best outfit, a smart blouse and a pair of tailored pants, hoping it would help boost my confidence. As I stepped out of the apartment, Emily wished me luck. You're going to do great, Sarah. Just be yourself. Thanks, Emily, I replied, giving her a quick hug. I'll see you tonight. The subway ride to the publishing house was an experience in itself. I clutched my bag tightly, surrounded by a sea of commuters. The city moved with a rhythm that was both chaotic and fascinating. When I finally arrived at the office building, I took a deep breath before stepping inside. The lobby was sleek and modern, with large windows letting in streams of sunlight. I approached the reception desk, feeling slightly out of place. Hi, I'm Sarah Johnson. It's my first day, I said to the receptionist. She smiled warmly. Welcome, Sarah. You'll be meeting Mr. Thompson. Just take the elevator to the 5th floor, and someone will be there to guide you. I thanked her and made my way to the elevator, my heart pounding. When the doors opened on the 5th floor, I was greeted by a young woman with a friendly smile. You must be Sarah. I'm Laura, Mr. Thompson's assistant. Follow me, and I'll show you to his office. I followed Laura through the bustling office, trying to take in everything at once. People were typing away on computers, discussing manuscripts, and moving stacks of books. It was a hive of activity, and I felt a surge of excitement. Laura knocked on a door labeled Mr. Thompson and led me inside. Mr. Thompson stood up from behind his desk, extending his hand. Welcome, Sarah. It's good to have you on board, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'm excited to be here, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Please call me James, he said, sitting back down. I've heard great things about you. I'm sure you'll fit in well here. Laura will show you around and get you settled. Laura took me on a tour of the office, introducing me to my new colleagues. Everyone seemed friendly and welcoming, which helped calm my nerves. She then led me to my desk, a small but cozy space with a view of the city. Here you go, Sarah. If you need anything, just let me know, Laura said. Thanks, Laura. I appreciate it, I said, taking a seat and looking around. As I began to get organized, a colleague named Mark approached my desk. He had a stack of papers in his hands and a warm smile on his face. Hey there, I'm Mark. Welcome to the team, he said, extending his hand. Hi, Mark. Thanks, it's nice to meet you, I replied, shaking his hand. So how are you finding your first day so far? He asked. It's a bit overwhelming, but everyone's been really nice, I admitted. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it soon enough. If you ever need help, feel free to ask. We're all in this together, he said, giving me an encouraging nod. Later in the day, I had my first meeting with James. He outlined my responsibilities and what he expected from me. Your main task will be to review and edit manuscripts. We're looking for someone with a keen eye for detail and a passion for good stories. Think you can handle that? He asked, looking at me intently. Yes, absolutely. I love reading and I'm excited to dive into the work, I replied confidently. Good to hear. We're counting on you, Sarah, he said with a smile. As the day came to an end, I felt a mix of exhaustion and accomplishment. I had met so many people, learned a lot about the job, and even started on my first manuscript. As I left the office, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. I had taken the first step towards my dream career, and it felt amazing. When I got back to the apartment, Emily was waiting with a bottle of wine and two glasses. How was it? She asked, handing me a glass. It was incredible and a bit overwhelming, but I think I'm going to love it there, I said, clinking my glass against hers. To new beginnings, Emily said with a smile. To new beginnings, I echoed, feeling more hopeful than ever. The weeks flew by in a blur of manuscripts, meetings, and coffee runs. I was slowly finding my rhythm at work, and my confidence was growing. One evening, as I was wrapping up a particularly long day at the office, the sky outside had turned a deep shade of gray. The weather forecast had predicted rain, and it looked like it was about to start any minute. I hurried to pack my things and headed towards the exit, hoping to catch a cab before the rain started. Just as I stepped outside, the first drops began to fall, quickly turning into a downpour. I sighed and pulled out my umbrella, but a strong gust of wind had other plans, flipping it inside out. Great, just great, I muttered to myself, trying to wrestle the umbrella back into shape. As I stood there, drenched and struggling with the umbrella, a voice called out from beside me. Need some help with that? I turned to see a man standing there, holding an umbrella over above our heads. He had a kind face, with dark hair and eyes that sparkled with amusement. Thanks, I said, smiling despite the situation. This thing has a mind of its own. He laughed. Yeah, umbrellas can be tricky. I'm Jack, by the way. I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you, Jack, I replied, grateful for his help. Let me walk you to the curb. Maybe we can find a cab together, Jack suggested. We made our way to the curb, chatting as we went. I learned that Jack was a writer, struggling to get his first novel published. He was passionate about his work, and it was clear that he poured his heart into his stories. So, what do you do, Sarah? Jack asked as we stood waiting for a cab. I'm an editor at a publishing house. I've only been there for a few weeks, but I love it, I said. Jack's eyes lit up. An editor? That's amazing. Maybe I'll submit my manuscript to your company. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to discover me, he said with a grin. Maybe, I replied, smiling back. I'd love to read your work sometime. Just then, a cab pulled up and Jack opened the door for me. Ladies first, he said, gesturing for me to get in. Thanks, but you're getting in too, right? I asked. If you don't mind sharing, he replied. Not at all, I said, scooting over to make room. As the cab drove through the rain-soaked streets, Jack and I continued our conversation. There was an ease between us, like we had known each other for much longer than a few minutes. He told me about his novel, a story about love and loss set in a small coastal town. I could hear the passion in his voice as he spoke about his characters and their struggles. Your story sounds beautiful, I said. I can tell you've put a lot of yourself into it. I have, Jack admitted. Writing is like therapy for me. It helps me make sense of the world. I get that, I said. Reading has always been my escape. It's what made me want to become an editor in the first place. Jack smiled. It's nice to meet someone who understands. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime and talk more about books and writing. I'd like that, I said, feeling a flutter of excitement. The cab pulled up to my apartment, and Jack handed the driver some cash. I'll cover this one, he said before I could protest. Thank you, Jack. I really appreciate it, I said, stepping out of the cab. No problem. Here, take my card, he said, handing me a small business card with his name and contact information. Call me if you want to grab that coffee. I will, I said, slipping the card in my bag. Good night, Jack. Good night, Sarah, he replied, giving me a warm smile. As I walked up to my apartment, I couldn't help but feel like something special had just happened. Meeting Jack felt like a turning point, a chance encounter that might lead to something more. I glanced at his card once more before putting it on my dresser. Hey, how was your day? Emily called out from the kitchen as I walked in. Eventful, I replied, grinning. I'll tell you all about it over dinner. As we sat down to eat, I shared the story of my encounter with Jack. Emily listened intently, a knowing smile on her face. He sounds like a great guy, she said. You should definitely call him. Yeah, I think I will, I replied, feeling a sense of anticipation. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about Jack and our conversation. The city felt a little less overwhelming and a lot more exciting. For the first time since moving here, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of work, new experiences, and growing feelings for Jack. We met often, sharing long conversations over coffee and late night walks in the city. I was happier than I had been in a long time, but with that happiness came new challenges. At work, things were getting intense. James, my boss, was putting more pressure on me to deliver results. The workload increased and the deadlines became tighter. I found myself staying late at the office almost every night, trying to keep up. One Friday evening, I was buried in manuscripts when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jack. Dinner tonight? I know a great place. I sighed, feeling torn. I wanted to see him, but I was swamped with work. I texted back. I wish I could, but I'm stuck at the office. Rain check. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Sure, but don't work too hard. You need a break. I smiled at his concern, but the stress of the job weighed heavily on me. As the hours ticked by, I felt the tension building inside me. Finally, around 10 p.m., I decided to call it a night. I packed my bag and headed home, my mind still buzzing with unfinished tasks. When I got home, Emily was waiting in the living room. Hey, you look exhausted, she said, concern etched on her face. I am, I admitted, flopping down on the couch. Work has been crazy, and I feel like I'm drowning. Emily nodded. I get it, but you need to take care of yourself too. Have you talked to James about the workload? I haven't had the chance, I said, rubbing my temples. He's always so busy, and I don't want to seem like I can't handle it. Sarah, you're doing an amazing job. But you also need to set boundaries. Otherwise, you'll burn out, Emily said gently. The next day, I decided to talk to James. I waited until after our morning meeting and approached him as he was gathering his things. James, can I talk to you for a minute? I asked, my voice steady but nervous. Sure, Sarah. What's on your mind? He said, looking at me with a hint of curiosity. I've been feeling overwhelmed with the workload lately. I'm doing my best, but it's becoming a bit too much to handle on my own. I said, trying to keep my tone professional. James frowned, considering my words. I understand. We've had a lot of projects coming in recently, and I know it's been demanding. How about we look at redistributing some tasks to lighten your load? I felt a wave of relief. That would be great, James. Thank you. As I walked back to my desk, I felt a sense of accomplishment. I had taken a step to address the issue, and it felt good to be heard. Later that evening, I met up with Jack for dinner. We sat at a cozy little restaurant, the kind of place that made you feel at home. So how's work going? Jack asked, looking at me with genuine interest. It's been tough, I admitted, but I talked to my boss today, and he's going to help me manage the workload better. That's good to hear, Jack said, smiling. I know how hard you've been working. You deserve a break. As we talked, I realized how much I had come to rely on Jack for support. He was always there, encouraging me and reminding me to take care of myself. But as the weeks went by, the balance between work and my personal life became harder to maintain. One night, as Jack and I were walking home from a late dinner, I felt the stress bubbling to the surface. Sarah, you've been really quiet tonight. Is everything okay? Jack asked, his voice filled with concern. I'm sorry, Jack. It's just, work has been overwhelming, and I feel like I'm constantly playing catch-up, I said, my frustration spilling out. Jack stopped walking and turned to face me. I understand that work is important, but you can't let it consume you. You need to make time for yourself, for us. I know, Jack, but it's not that simple. I have responsibilities, and I don't want to let anyone down. I said, my voice rising. Jack took a deep breath. Sarah, I'm not asking you to neglect your responsibilities. I'm just asking you to find a balance. You can't keep burning the candle at both ends. I looked at him, feeling torn. I want to find that balance, Jack, but I don't know how. Let's figure it out together, he said softly, taking my hand. You're not alone in this. His words touched me deeply, and I felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Jack. I don't know what I'd do without you. We're in this together, Sarah. We'll make it work, he said, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. As we continued our walk, I realized that finding balance wouldn't be easy, but with Jack by my side, I felt more hopeful. The city lights glowed around us, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of calm. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. The stress at work continued to mount despite James's efforts to help redistribute my tasks. I found myself working late almost every night, and my relationship with Jack started to feel the strain. One night, after a particularly grueling day, I came home to find Emily waiting for me with a concerned look on her face. Sarah, we need to talk, she said gently as I walked through the door. Sure, Emily. What's up? I replied, dropping my bag and kicking off my shoes. I'm worried about you. You've been working yourself to the bone, and it's starting to take a toll. Not just on you, but on your relationship with Jack too, she said, sitting me down on the couch. I sighed, feeling the weight of her words. I know, Emily. I just don't know how to juggle everything. The pressure at work is intense, and I don't want to disappoint anyone. You need to take care of yourself, Sarah. Remember why you moved here in the first place. It wasn't just for the job, but for a fresh start, a new life. Emily reminded me. She was right. I had come to New York with dreams and aspirations, but somewhere along the way, I had lost sight of what truly mattered. I needed to find a way to balance my career with my personal life. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of determination. I would talk to James again and set clearer boundaries. I owed it to myself and to Jack. At the office, I knocked on James's door, and he looked up, surprised to see me so early. Sarah, come in. What can I do for you? He asked, motioning for me to sit. James, I need to talk to you about my workload. I appreciate all the opportunities you've given me, but I need to set some boundaries. I can't keep working these late hours. It's affecting my health and my personal life, I said, my voice steady. James leaned back in his chair, considering my words. I understand, Sarah. I don't want to push you to the point of burnout. Let's find a way to manage your tasks better. Your well-being is important. Thank you, James. I really appreciate it, I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. After our conversation, I felt more in control. That evening, I texted Jack, asking if we could meet. He suggested a quiet park where we often went for walks. When I arrived, Jack was sitting on a bench, watching the sunset. He looked up and smiled as I approached. Hey, Sarah, how was your day? He asked, standing up to give me a hug. It was good. I talked to James about setting boundaries at work. I'm trying to find a better balance, I said, feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. I'm glad to hear that, Jack said, his eyes warm with understanding. I've missed spending time with you. I've missed you too, Jack. I'm sorry I've been so caught up with work. I realize now that I need to make time for the things that matter most, I said, taking his hand. We're all just trying to figure it out, Jack said, squeezing my hand. What matters is that we're in this together. As we walked through the park, the conversation flowed easily. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and our hopes for the future. I felt a renewed sense of connection with Jack, and it was clear that our bond was growing stronger. A few days later, I received an email that would change everything. It was from a different publishing house, one I had submitted a short story to months ago. My heart raced as I opened the email and read the first line. Dear Sarah, we are pleased to inform you that your story has been accepted for publication. I could hardly believe it. I read the email again, just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. I had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now it was finally happening. I called Jack immediately, barely able to contain my excitement. Jack, you won't believe it. My story got accepted for publication. That's amazing, Sarah. I'm so proud of you. Jack said, his voice filled with joy. That evening, we celebrated with Emily, who was just as thrilled as I was. We toasted to new beginnings, to dreams coming true, and to the future. As I lay in bed that night, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. There had been challenges and setbacks, but there had also been moments of joy and triumph. I realized that the key to happiness wasn't just about success at work, but about finding balance and cherishing the people who supported me along the way. I fell asleep with a smile on my face, knowing that I was exactly where I was meant to be. The revelation was clear. Life is about more than just work. It's about love, friendship, and pursuing the passions that make us feel alive. The news of my story being accepted for publication felt like a dream come true. The days that followed were filled with a new kind of excitement and purpose. I had taken steps to find balance at work, and my relationship with Jack was stronger than ever. It was as if everything was finally falling into place. One sunny Saturday morning, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind and enjoy the beautiful weather. As I strolled through the park, I thought about how far I had come since moving to New York. The city, once so intimidating, now felt like home. My phone buzzed, interrupting my thoughts. It was a text from Jack. Meet me at our favorite coffee shop at noon. I smiled and replied, see you there. The coffee shop was a cozy little place we had discovered on one of our many walks. It had become our spot, a place where we could relax and talk for hours. When I arrived, Jack was already there, sitting at a table by the window with 2 cups of coffee. Hey, Sarah. He greeted me with a warm smile. I got your favorite. Thanks, Jack, I said, taking a seat across from him. How's your day going? Pretty good. I've been working on some new ideas for my book, he said, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. That's great to hear, I replied, genuinely happy for him. I can't wait to read it. We spent the next hour talking about our projects, our dreams, and the future. It felt easy and natural, and I realized how much Jack had become a part of my life. Sarah, Jack said, his tone suddenly serious. I've been thinking a lot lately about us and where we're headed. I looked at him curious. What do you mean? He reached across the table and took my hand. I mean, I see a future with you. I want us to build something together, both in our careers and our personal lives. How do you feel about that? My heart swelled with emotion. Jack, I feel the same way. You've been my rock through all of this, and I can't imagine my life without you. He smiled, relieved. I'm glad to hear that. So, what do you say we take this new beginning and make it our own adventure? I'd love that, I said, squeezing his hand. Later that evening, I met up with Emily at our apartment. She was sitting on the couch, surrounded by books and papers. Hey, Emily, I said, plopping down next to her. Guess what? Jack and I talked about our future today, and we're on the same page about everything. That's fantastic, Sarah, Emily exclaimed, giving me a hug. I'm so happy for you both. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Thanks, Emily. I feel like everything is finally coming together, I said, feeling a sense of peace. As we sat there, talking about our plans and dreams, I realized how grateful I was for Emily's friendship. She had been there for me through thick and thin, always offering support and encouragement. The next few weeks flew by as I prepared for the publication of my story. The day it was released, I received an outpouring of support from friends, family, and even colleagues. It was a moment of triumph that I would never forget. One evening, Jack and I decided to celebrate by having dinner at a quaint little restaurant he had discovered. As we sat there, enjoying our meal and each other's company, I felt a profound sense of contentment. Sarah, this is just the beginning for us, Jack said, raising his glass. To new beginnings and to all the adventures that lie ahead. To new beginnings, I echoed, clinking my glass against his. As we walked home that night, hand in hand, I knew that this was the start of something wonderful. I had found my place in the city, a balance between work and personal life, and a love that made everything else shine brighter. The challenges I had faced had only made me stronger, and now I was ready to embrace the future with open arms. New York was no longer just a city of dreams. It was my home, and with Jack and Emily by my side, I knew that anything was possible.